Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would ask that you stand with me and salute the flag, please. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to our board meeting for tonight. I ask that if you don't have an emergency, that you put your telephones in a kind of silent manner. We'll go from there. First on the agenda tonight is public hearings. I'll read the first one. Public hearing on a proposed $1,900,000 bond for the construction of a town hall to replace spaces, including but not limited to building construction, site work, architectural fees, engineering, permitting, inspections, furniture, commissioning, and other expenses to occupy the building. I will now open this up for public comment.
If I may make a brief presentation.
Please, John.
Not on.
The town hall, as many of you know, has been leased space for almost 8 years now. Over the course of that, we've paid close to $500,000 in taxes on that property, and of course we have nothing to show for it other than the fact that we've had the use of the building. The town has looked at a number of options. They've thought about what to do. An opportunity arose at the town meeting, wanted to take advantage of at this point in time to do something about this. So the bonding was the consideration that they had. Bonding is a, why isn't that going forward? Hit this button. Yep. Yeah. No. Oh, it's just not. Okay, so I just got to use this to get there. Okay, bonding has a smaller impact than a lot of other options that could have been done for this. Who's causing it to go forward? Sorry about this. We're trying a different projector, the one in the ceiling, and for some reason we're having trouble with this program. Okay, so. Well, anyway, the suggestion is that we proceed with a bonding project on it. Interest rates are rising. They're likely going to be higher in the future than they are at this point in time. We believe that this is the time to do construction. Why this particular time? Because a landowner has offered to donate 5 acres to the town if we build on that 5 acres. It's on Route 125. It's just a little north of where the current rented space is on 125. The 5 acres would provide enough space so that there would be room for a second building if we wanted to put the police station there at some point in the future. We've shared with you in the past the police station needs. We're trying to do a short-term fix at the police station that we're currently working on. We're interested in proceeding with that site. However, we need to do something or other as far as demonstrating that we've got a commitment to proceed on that site. What we'd like is to bond it and then do a design build. Over the years, we've spent over $300,000 designing buildings and still have nothing to show for it. And we decided if we go with a design build, then that puts the burden on the person that's designing it. Farmington recently went that way. It worked out very well for them. We believe that we can build for under $200 a square foot, and that this $1.9 million bond would meet the needs that we are asking for. That land offer is only good through 2021. and at that point, we have to have started building. We estimate the value on that land at about $125,000. For additional buildings, as I mentioned earlier, which is where the police station could go if we wanted to expand in that direction in the future to meet the needs of the growing police department. And it's located on Route 125 with easy access. This building would be highly energy efficient, and it would be a long-lasting building. Some people say, yeah, but you're going to pay more per year for the next few years. Yes, but after the bond is paid off, then you've got the use of the building for the next 30 years without having to pay for the bond or any of the other costs. Currently, if we keep paying rent, the rents could go up. We're on a month-to-month lease. If they want us to leave the building, they could do so with 60 days' notice, and then we'd be really up the creek. Route 125, as you know, is a main transportation corridor. This is close to the town hall. And this is a large lot. It would be set back from the road. There would be a fairly long driveway, but it would be in a wooded area. And this would also bring you into compliance on ADA issues as you proceed. It would provide meeting space, so we wouldn't be meeting in the school space like we do currently. It would provide record storage, so we wouldn't have to rent space to store our records in. It would provide additional parking right now if you're coming in the first of the month to register your car or when taxes are due. You know how crowded that parking lot can be. It's not really large enough for the building. The reason that the owner is willing to give the 5 acres is he's hoping that that would act as a incentive for additional economic development along that 500 feet that are set back from Route 125. So we're anticipating there would be additional economic development that would come if the town goes there. That would expand the tax base not only for that piece of property while maintaining Barrington's rural character, but it would also return the current building to the tax rolls. It's within 1 mile of what we call the town center, which is that intersection of 125 and Route 9 where Caleb stores are. There's 212 acres total on that parcel, so that there is going to be residential development in behind where this town hall is going. And as I said, if we stopped renting the commercial property, it would be taxable again. Right now, we're spending $64,000 a year on rent. It's just like throwing money out the window because you have nothing to show for it at the end of the year. So that is a brief summary of what is being requested. $1.9 million to build approximately 10,000 square feet for the town hall. We believe we can do it for under $200 a square foot based on what the design build in Farmington came in at and some other numbers that we've seen.
All right. Would you like me to read the warrant as it will appear on the ballot, or would you prefer to have a discussion with it now? What would be your choice? Would you like for me to read it? Just show of hands. That's enough. I'll read it then. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $1.9 million for the purpose of construction of a town hall to replace lease space, including but not limited to building construction, site work, architectural fees, engineering, permitting, inspections, furniture, commissioning, and other expenses to occupy the building. $1.9 million of such sum to be raised through the issuance of bonds or notes under and in compliance with the Municipal Finance Act, RSA 33.1, etc. As amended, to authorize the it should be select person to apply, select board to apply for and obtain and accept federal, state, and other aid, if any, which may be available for said project, and to comply with all laws applicable to said project. To authorize the select board to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver said bonds and notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the select board to take any other recommendations proposed by the selectmen and recommended by, the advisory budget committee.
Well, no, what I have done is put in there that I will need a recommendation for all
Oh,
of these,
okay.
so and we'll have a tax impact statement, so that is the end of the article, and the rest of this gets added after the ABC takes their vote, the town takes its vote, the Board of Selectmen takes its vote, the Select Board takes its vote, and then we go ahead.
So noted, and it's a yes or a no vote. I'm now open this up for discussion. Please, when you come up, please remember to give me your name. If you want the address, Suzanne?
Yep.
Name is fine, just please come up, and we'll do it in an orderly fashion, please.
My name's Pat Gingrich, and I just have a question. You're asking for almost $2 million, and you don't have a floor plan or any kind of visual that you can show us?
That's correct. We're going to do as a construct build.
And what does that mean? Because I don't get that. What does that mean?
A design build is a process by which you bid out a project, you indicate the broad parameters of what you want, and they will build that space the most economical way that they can to meet your needs. It's a fairly standard process. We have done buildings here in this town before with design build.
For example, what building?
The highway garage we did that way.
So do you get to, they design something, they show you a plan, and you get to have some time to talk about it and give your
Yes.
feedback on it?
Yes, we do.
But we don't see it before the municipal.
No, it's approximately 10,000 square feet of space that would have office space, meeting space, and record storage area.
And it's all on one level.
Yes.
Dan, you had a comment, please?
Yes. We have a bunch of plans, and one thing about Barrington, we have a real rich community and knowledgeable people. There will be a committee formed to go through all the plans, come up there, then we give a rough drawing to a builder. So there'll be input during that, and there'll be all minutes taken and stuff, so people will have a chance to look at it beforehand.
Thank you, Dan. Tracy, please.
So one of the important things with the design build, when you go ahead, as we have multiple times, and have spent money on architectural designs, two things to be aware of with this. Generally, about 5% of a project is what an architect charges to do designs. So of course, and if any of you are an architect, I apologize profusely, but there's certainly no cost savings to trying to build a very economical building, because the fees that you're going to collect at that point would be lowered. With a design build, you actually go in with your space needs already determined. You go in with whether you are choosing universal design, as we would with ADA compliance. You go in with whether you're choosing to build a building that is appropriately energy efficient, and you throw that in and you say, and here's what we're willing to pay, build us a design based on this. And it's the reverse process, but it actually saves a significant amount of money. As you can see, we're proposing one that is significantly lower than the costs that have been proposed in years past.
And just as a side note, prior boards have come before the town 10 times in the last 15 years with requests either for design money and or money just to renovate, and also the final one to have a building put forward.
And capital reserve.
And we had one for capital reserve that was approved for building approved, and that was all we had out of it, so made a total of 11 that we had. Is there any other questions, please? Please.
Yes, Steve Saunders. The ABC has not met on this yet, so I'm speaking as a resident. I'm a little bit disappointed that you still have a section called details needed. And so I'd like to address what I'd like to see personally in that details in helping build a case for this. And that's really the business plan that says pro forma, what those potential increases in taxes and potential impact on taxes during the bond period, and you can make assumptions as to what it is and make assumptions as to what the interest rate's liable to be. But I think that business case, it will really help sell this project because there is a definite return based on the rents that you're going to save. So I'd like to see that material before we get into the deliberative session if possible, and definitely before the election.
Yes, we will have that for you. Thank you. Please.
Good evening, Susan Gaudiello. I have a question and then a comment. My question relates to the $200 a square foot, and I have no problem with the design-build concept, but my question is does that include all the furnishings and technology and so on for the building? I think when you said, well, the approach with design-build, you have a dollar amount that you give to the builder and say, this is what we want for that dollar amount. So what amount goes for construction and what will go for furnishing and technology?
We would have to, as Steve had requested, we're going to have to put all that
That's
together.
details forthcoming.
Yes, correct.
Okay. At the last select board meeting, you had a discussion around different ways to fund this going forward, whether to go for a bond at this time or whether to do a capital reserve, setting aside large amounts of money in the next couple of years. And I really would like to ask you to reconsider the position of doing a bond for a couple of reasons. My sense in general is that having two bond articles on the ballot in the same year makes the passage of either of them more difficult. And also, as you know, it requires 60% of the voters to pass the bond as opposed to 50%. So if you were to proceed with the alternate approach you discussed last meeting of setting aside the large amount of surplus that you have at this point into a capital reserve, you would only need 50% of the vote in order to set that aside for the town office building, and then obviously go back next year for either the rest of the money next year or for it over the next 2 years. Personally, I think that would be, I'm going to say, more palatable and an easier to accomplish than a bond. The other comments that you've said is that the developer is looking for a show of real commitment. And again, a show of commitment, getting a capital reserve passed with a 50% vote is more likely than a denial of a bond. And the fact that you need to be starting to build in 2021 means that setting aside capital reserve this year, you could do capital reserve the next 2 years, but basically you still have plenty of time to get that passed forward. So my request would be that you reconsider the strategy in moving forward on this.
If I may, Susan, due to the time constraints, I think it was sometime after midnight that we were discussing that, and we had put that aside for future discussion. It's not in stone yet, as I say, and so we are going to have that meeting and discuss it, and if, I believe it's on the agenda for tonight to be discussed after the public hearings are done, and I'd ask that you please stay and we will hear us.
Well, and I know I faded about 11 o'clock at your last meeting.
You weren't the only one, there's some other people.
But anyway, I wanted to share my thoughts with you on where I think, from both a perspective of what's best for all of the bond articles, but I thought what would give this the best chance of going forward as well. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Is there any other comments from the public, please? Seeing we have no further comments from the public, I will close this portion of the public hearing for proposed bond of $1.9 million, and I will open up the second public hearing on the proposed bond article for a library, community center, including but not limited to building, construction, site work, architectural fees, engineering, permitting, inspections, furniture, commissioning, and other expenses to occupy the building. The warrant article is for $4,424,876, of which $3,992,641 is proposed for being bonded. Now, do we have any comments you want to make on that,
I
John?
believe that the library trustees, the chairman is going to make a brief presentation.
All right. And if, want to come up here, please?
Well, I think she's
No,
going to speak.
you're going to speak
I'll
from there.
on the computer.
And we're going to have
Perfect.
Melissa on the computer.
Sounds good.
Connor figured out a way to make it work. So hopefully.
Yeah, that would be better. Yeah. How's that?
Go to slide, the next slide.
All right, so my name, it feels weird to face all of you and not all of you, so I apologize to have my back towards you all. My name is Lindsay Maziarz, and I am the chair of the Barrington Public Library Board of Trustees, and I'm here tonight to speak to the proposed bond request for a new public library and community center. So quickly, I just thought it is important to share that we have been a team effort now that began over 10 years ago, that has started and stopped along the way. Our library trustees have been working closely with the Barrington Library Foundation, which is a nonprofit that was formed by community members to be the fundraising arm and to get this project off of the ground. We also have been working with community volunteers who've invited us into their homes for cultivation events, have donated financially and with in-kind services. Community businesses have sponsored rooms, made financial donations, and are hosting events and helping get the word out for us. SMP Architecture, who has deep experience in library construction, was hired on to help in 2008 when we initially started the project. And lastly, Bowen Corporation out of Meredith, New Hampshire, was recently hired to serve as our construction management firm. I'm positive that you've all heard many of our presentations over the last year on why we feel that our new space is needed and that now is the correct time. I will just quickly highlight that the space that we currently have is no longer appropriate for the size of our community. We have continuously had to turn people away and programming ideas away because we just don't have the space. We aren't able to offer services to patrons that would like to be able to offer. For a great example, a beautiful community room that would house these kinds of meetings. Well, the ECLC, where we are sitting tonight, this is where our children learn to love to read. This building does not have their own library, so the school children walk over to the library to have class with Miss Wendy, and she has students on a daily basis. And most importantly, we do not have a community center in our town, so this would serve as such a function, a place for people to gather. Just a few pictures for you that we have created over the last year. This is the view from Route 9. The building is proposed to be up where the old school was next to the playground. So this part would actually be facing Route 9. This is just a different view of that front entrance there. Currently, our parking lots has 12 spaces, and for any of you who are dropping your child off at the ECLC, picking them up, attending a rec program, you know how difficult it is to find a parking spot in all of that area. So our new building would have 50 spots dedicated for the library. And next you'll see our floor plan, which is obviously a little hard to see here. At the end of the presentation, I have some other places that you could go to look at this closer, as well as if you head up to the library, this is on a bigger board up there. But just to point out, the green on our left says program room, and that's our community program room that can hold 100 people, can be divided off. So you could do 60-40, change the space around to benefit whatever is going on in there. And it also locks off from the library so we can have it open for after hours. The Barrington room, which is over on your right-hand side, another green room, that's a board room for 12 people. The study rooms are for smaller meeting spaces for interviews, exam taking, tutoring. The craft maker space, which is in the back, another big space for programming for the library and other activities in town. And another neat feature of the building that I think is important to point out, because we listened to those in the town, is that we do have that front entryway. We also have an entry in the very back by the children's corner, because if you don't know, the students walk over
to the library for that time. And this way, they wouldn't have to walk through all the parking lots like they currently have to. They'd be able to go the back way and enter in a safe space that would be locked, that only the children from the ECLC would get through. And then this is just a picture to kind of get the feeling of the flow of how it would look when you go inside. Open, very bright, taking into consideration sunrise, sunset. And I think it's important that you all know that many of you were there in October and November. We had our community meetings. We had them at BMS. We presented ideas and listened to yours. And as a result from those meetings, our building committee and our team leaders came back, and with help from S&P and Bowen, we were able to value engineer the project and look at items that we could maybe scale back. We were able to reduce the size and the scope, and because of this, we were able to be successful in reducing our bond request. So let's talk about the bond. So the budget. The total cost of our project would be $4,424,876, offset by private donations raised by the Barrington Library Foundation, which is $432,235. And the bond amount that the taxpayers would have a responsibility to pay back over 15 years would be $3,992,641. Groundbreaking on the new building would begin in late September, early October of this year, 2019. Construction would take about 10 months with a late summer opening in 2020. We have worked diligently to create a space for our community and build a building that will last for 50 years. This building will allow us to gather as a community and use the library in a traditional sense, but also to open up to new and exciting ideas that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do. And lastly, as you know, things are constantly changing. In this presentation, I quoted $432,235 was the amount raised, which you've already surpassed in fundraising. So as the foundation has committed to continue to fundraise throughout our entire project, they're not going to stop once we start breaking ground. The more we raise, the less we would need to draw down from that bond. So these are the three big spots where you could keep updated on events and information as we continue to update things. Send any questions you have to any of these spots. You can find out all the information you would need, and of course pop into the library and ask to speak with Melissa or any of the staff. And that's what I have. Would you like me to stay up here, or shall I sit down for the question part? Or is it public comment?
Why don't you state the questions, please? Does anybody have more questions of the library, please? Please. Or comments? Please come forward one at a time. Ma'am, please.
I'm Carol Snack. I live on Mendon's Landing in Barrington, and I'm concerned about how this affects my taxes. Like, how does the bond, the repayment of the bond, affect the taxes that I'm going to have to pay? Can anybody explain how that works? Sure. Thank you.
Well, I absolutely, it's all right. Well, I'm absolutely not an expert on this, and there are other folks here that may be able to better do this than I am, because I'm learning as well as all of you. And I actually just wrote this down. So, with our current number that we had just talked about with that bond request, it looks like for a home in Barrington, or for the total cost of your home would be around $300,000. The yearly impact would be $100 a year per household, $100 more a year to your taxes. Though I'm sure someone can speak to the fact that there is currently bonds that we're paying on that will be coming out, that we will no longer be paying on, I believe in 2021. So currently we're paying a bond back for one of the schools, and that will be eliminated in 2021. So I'm not sure of the exact 2022, sorry, 2022. So I'm not sure the exact difference between what we're paying for them and what we would be paying for our new space, but I do know that right now, again, the number would be on a $300,000 home in Barrington value, sorry, your cost would go up $106.82.
And that would be for how long, the extra $100?
Sure. So again, I don't know for sure. I have been explained that over the years, as people move into town, the tax gets spread out as new people are paying. If, as the years go on, I believe we pay less. As the years go on, I believe at the beginning, we're paying the bigger chunks. So if you're at $106 now, I don't know what you'd be in 5 years, but it would continue to go down, if that helps.
Is it spread over the 15 years of the repayment plan?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
In the interest of safety for all the other items we're going to come forward, just please come to the front. Apologize for the forward. Dan, you had, please.
I'm not an expert either, but with all the increases to school budget over the years and stuff, with the teacher salaries and everything, when this bond is taken away, I don't think we'll see a big decrease. Because the way the school budget has gone up, if you look at the records, I don't think we're going to see much of a savings.
Okay.
I'm not an expert.
Sure.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak to this, please? If you, please, sir, come.
This way.
Hi, I'm Roger Gingrich. I'm here in Barrington. Easy enough in meetings like this to be caught up with the bricks and mortar and dollars and cents. I'd like to direct the attention of folks here and on the select board to a couple of books that have come out just in this past year. Highly reviewed books in the New York Times Book Review. One by a guy named Klinman, the other by an individual named Orion, looking at the purpose of libraries in the 21st century. Easy to see that maybe we don't want to be carrying books home with us as we did in the last several decades. These individuals point out that libraries serve as centers for the community, and we have a community center attached to this library to accentuate that need for this Barrington community. Places for individuals to meet of different stripes and colors and to discuss. There's a cafe built into this. And so I would encourage you to look at those books as you deliberate for the value of this library to the community above and beyond just the beautiful building that we see being available to this community over the next 50 years. And the second comment is simply to express my profound sort of amazement at the development that has gone into this project versus the first project that was presented to the group. Thanks.
Thank you, Roger, for your comments. Please come up. Thank you. Whoops.
Hello, Dale Sylvia, ABC member. My question is just from an accountability standpoint, or an accounting standpoint. John, maybe you can answer this for me. The bond itself is for 4.4, and then we're taking away the 432,000. Are we actually appropriating the 4.4 and then paying it off? And I'm just, how is that going to work?
Yeah, we appropriate the full amount of $4,400,000. We bond $3,992,000. We receive a donation of $432,000 from the Library Foundation. So that money at $432,000 would be coming as it reduces the total from 4.4 down to 3, just under 4 million.
So is that money actually raised though?
Oh.
Yes, you
What
have,
comes
to raise,
to that?
you have to do what's called gross appropriation, in which you raise the total you're going to use. For example, last year on Malago Road, we raised 1.3 million, even though 1,050,000 of that's going to come from the state. So we noted the total cost of 1.3, and we noticed 1,050,000 was coming from the state, and the rest of it was coming from the town, the 270,000.
So if we actually appropriate the 4.4,
Yes.
but we're only going to, 432,000 is coming from the money that they raised.
Yes.
What happens to the other? Is it actually for the bond itself? What
Yeah,
does
yeah,
it-
the
where does that go?
balance, the 3,992,641 is what gets bonded.
So what happens to the other 432,000 that was appropriated?
It
From
gets
the-
spent on the project, but it's, the revenue doesn't come from the taxpayers, the revenue comes from the library foundation. You're gonna spend the full $4,400,000, although if Jason does a great job, he might get it under $200,000-300,000 less than that, right? But we have to appropriate on the basis that make sure you have enough, so that's the 4.4. And then you're hoping to, if you save money, you could bond less than the 3.992.
Thank you.
Can I speak for that? Am I allowed to do that?
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to also add that that 432 from the foundation, we've already surpassed that. So that was the number that we sat down and really crunched to make sure that that's the exact amount of money that we would have cash on hand. So that is a very accurate number, and it will continue to rise. And so like John said, we would be able to draw down less from the bond than the actual 3.9.
Sir, please.
My name is Earl Hoffman, and one of the major concerns, basically from the townspeople, is probably the raise of taxes. $106 a month is...
A year.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. $106 a year is pretty reasonable. I pay close to like $9,000 a year in property tax for our property, which is, I'm a veteran, I'm retired, I'm on a fixed income. Now, what about the senior elderly people that are in this community that probably can't afford that kind of money? I mean, those considerations need to be taken into account. And I believe, I mean, I agree with the library, definitely needs to be done, but also, you know, with law enforcement and the first responders, they need to be considered also. Okay? That's all I have to say. Oh, one more question. When was the last time taxes were lowered?
2 years.
I really would like to give some comments, but I'm not going to put myself between the town or anybody else. So I'm going to not comment on there over this microphone at least anyway. Anybody else have any comments, please? Marsha, please.
Hi, Marsha Gass, the town planner. I just have a couple numbers that I just wanted to make people aware of. The original bond for the middle school was $13 million. The current payment for this year is $780,000. I believe when the payments started out, it was about 1.1 million, and how they structured it, it's reduced a little bit every year. So in 2022, that original bond of $13 million and that payment of about $780,000 will have ended. If that gives anybody an idea of what we're paying now. I'm not aware of any other bonds that the town currently has.
No, John just confirmed, Mr. Scroop just confirmed that there isn't any other. Is there any other comments, please? Yes, please.
Finances are not my bag, so I would answer to them, but is there anyone that can explain which would work better? A bond for the library and capital improvement for the start of the town hall, or a bond for both? It just seems to me, and I'm retired too, a bond for both that's a lot to consider. And I just wondered, has anybody figured that out as to which would be better?
That's not a financial question, that's a political question, and you're going to be the one to make the decision.
As I had stated, just a minute, Dan, please. As I had said earlier, at the wee hours of the last meeting, we just decided that we had finished everything up, and we had put forward to talk about the $1.9 million bond and using some of the other resources. We have that on our agenda discussions tonight. And so that will go in line with what Susan had to say to us when she was up there. Dan, you got comments?
I got two comments, last one and then Dawn. There's only two things in life guaranteed: death and taxes. You can't reduce taxes. I can't see, yeah, I try every way I can to do it, but it's not. And on the economy stuff, we're due for correction and stuff. Interest rates are low right now, so if we lock in now, we're going to save money for the future. If we kick this around stuff, it's going to cost us more money. And this has been going too long and stuff, and I understand what my hands, I work every day, and if I know what it costs to earn a buck and spend a buck. And I understand there's a lot of people, they have to make decisions. Do I heat my house, or do I eat and stuff? Money doesn't last anymore. So I understand where you're coming from. And I think I support the library and the whole idea and stuff, all your hard work. A lot of programs are I do not support for a town hall. We have this option and stuff. We need to take advantage of this with future growth. It's going to save us money in the long run. And I can tell you, this community is very rich with knowledgeable people. We can do a build design to save money. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other comments, please?
Yeah. I just wanted to say one thing, that it is absolutely not lost on our committee that this is a financial burden. And that is why we've continued to work to bring that number down. That number was a lot higher. And I think it's a very important thing that you all know, and it was very much explained to me, that we have a very good contingency built into this. And so as we go forward, and as we are able to work with Bowen, who's the contract management firm, who is definitely very excited to work with local builders in this area, if we do not spend all of the money, it will not be drawn down. It's not like we bring the bond down and we're paying on it. We don't have to spend it all. And there is money built in as a cushion so that we wouldn't have to. Does that make sense? I just don't want anyone to think that we haven't put in time and consideration and fully appreciate everybody's hard work. And we don't want to make the burden any worse on anyone, for sure. Thank you.
One of the comments I want to make to go along with Earl's comment is that there are programs available coming down to the tax office for the elderly that would need some type of relief. They can come down or look online to see what they are and they can apply for it. That's just partial, Earl, of what some of the questions you was asking.
I think you mentioned he was a veteran.
Yeah, yes, there are veterans programs also, depending upon the amount of income they have. Is there any other comments, please? Yes, ma'am. Please be careful of the cord.
Leslie Cragen. Just a quick question, actually. I saw it, and I know this is a budget question, but it relates to the long-term debt that we're all talking about. In the 2018 column for the budget, I see debt service. There was about $240,000. What was that for? And it's zero next year, so I'm assuming there's a bond ending.
Yeah. In 2005, the town approved a conservation bond to purchase property. They did not use all of that bond. Then when the opportunity came for Stonehouse Forest, they wanted basically what was left in the bond, which was to draw down the last $230,000. So what the Board of Selectmen agreed to do was to draw down the bond, but to pay it in 1 year so it wouldn't have a lasting impact. So that was a conservation project. So they put that money with a $220,000 or $30,000 from the conservation fund to help the $3 million, give or take, purchase of Chestnut Forest, not Chestnut Forest, Stonehouse Forest. to expand that area over by Stonehouse Pond. And now they've preserved another 1,500 acres over there using that.
Thank you.
Please. I ask that if you have any more questions on the line items in the budget, please wait till we get to that particular time. Thank you.
Hi, Brad Vogel, a resident, not from the ADC. I just had a quick question on the price per square foot, if you wouldn't mind discussing it. What's your price per square foot in the library compared to the town hall?
Sure.
Assuming the construction styles are fairly similar.
Oh, and I wrote that down. Oh, here we go. So we are not going with a design build. We have architectural plans and it's a different situation. Okay, you got that part. So it looks as though right now we are quoted at $273.85 per square foot. So those are the numbers that we have been given. $273.85.
Could I ask Jason maybe to clarify that number? Because if you take the gross cost of the bond and divide it by the square foot, you get a different number. So
Sure.
I'm curious how your number, where you know, what the number is.
I will happily let Jason answer that question. Welcome.
You're doing great.
Oh, thanks.
I was hoping to avoid the hot seat. Hi, John.
Hi.
Anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Jason McComb. I'm the president of SMP Architecture. I've worked with the town for a long time. I've been working with the library since 2000. I've personally been working with the library since 2011. So cost per square foot, excellent question. The cost per square foot that Lindsay just quoted of $273.85 is based on the construction budget. So the bond also includes architecture, engineering, it includes all the furniture, fixtures, equipment, it includes all the testing and inspections that are code required, as well as owner contingency and the construction management. So the bond that we're asking for is an all-in budget. It's a process that we've gone through with many towns to really put together an appropriate, responsible budget for design, because we firmly believe that we don't come back to voters for that. And we look forward to bringing the building in under budget and giving the balance back to the town. So that's something that we go through, and we've worked many times with Bowen to do that.
So when we talk about the percentage, the dollars per square foot, are you using the commercial or residential way of figuring this? And yes, another hot seat.
Oh, no, that's fine. So this budget was put together by Bowen Corporation. They're a professional construction management company. They do pure construction management, which means they bid all the sub-trades. They hold the management, they hold the responsibility. They also hold the responsibility, once this passes, to making sure that it comes in on that budget. So they have a lot of responsibilities. They're commercial contractors, so they work in the commercial world. This is a price that's based on the current economic climate that we've been seeing in the construction industry for a high-quality building based on the concepts that you've seen and about 15 pages of outline specifications and a whole lot of conversations with the library and Bowen to agree on how we're going to build the building, how we're going to heat it, how we're going to cool it, what the site work requirements are. This is a number that is very real in the marketplace right now, assuming that we're bidding the project competitively roughly next September, or this September.
Thank you, Jason. Dan?
Do you know the percentage that they're charging and the contingencies and stuff that hold them back to oversee it?
Absolutely. We have all that. So construction management contract is open book. It's we selected, I think we interviewed 4 construction managers. Construction management contract is an open book agreement. The CM is selected on a qualifications as well as a fee proposal. Off the top of my head, I don't recall what the number was. However, because it's open book, they get paid a fee. I believe was 4%, might be 4.5%. Lindsay could check on that. They get paid a fee to professionally manage the project, and they bid all the sub-trades. And all those bids are public We sit down, we review them, we look at local, that's why we can give local preference. It's really an important difference. And we agree on who's going to do the work, what the schedule is going to be, what the level of quality is going to be at bid day. And at that point, they execute what's called the guaranteed maximum price. And at that point, the liability shifts from the owner's side to the contractor's side. And at that point, Bowen will guarantee to deliver that project with those subcontractors on that schedule for no more than a guaranteed maximum price. And within that is a construction manager's contingency. At that point, it'll probably be 5% of the construction cost.
Sit there. We have one more question, please. Person Hadcock.
Is the build subject to Davis-Bacon?
No.
Thank you.
Well, actually, I should caveat that. At this point, it's not. It would be if federal money became involved, but there's no expectation that that would happen.
Very good, thank you.
Their fee is 3.25%.
Thank you, Jason.
Any other questions?
Is there any other comments? I'd say, Earl?
Just one quick question.
Please come up to the microphone. We have to have a record of all of this.
Yes, sir. Just a quick comment. With cost overruns, so if I'm not mistaken, sir, that definitely is a set in stone where the cost overrun for the library will not go over budget. And the actual contractor, building coordinator or construction management company is willing to eat that cost if it does run over budget?
Maybe I should just stand up here. The answer is yes and no. So at this point, what's presented for the bond article is a budget. It's based on a lot of budget line items from a professional contractor. And we believe very firmly that we can bring this project in at the quality level for what we've committed to the town, or at or below what we're asking the town to bond. That's been our proven track record with Bowen Corporation. The liability of what the contractor, quote unquote, eats, that doesn't shift until that guaranteed maximum price is achieved. So that's a contract amendment. So we just want to be careful of when that, how we use that language, I would say. But at this point, it's our commitment to the town to bring the library, build the library for this budget, including outfitting it, and hopefully, as John suggested, return some money back to the town. That said, it is construction. There is always risk. There is always unknowns. That's why we carry construction contingencies within that budget.
Select Person Hadcock.
So it's my understanding, based on the calculation, that the total contingency is only $136,500.
I believe that is not correct.
You said 3.25% of the 4.2 million?
That's the fee. That's Bowen's
He asked
fee.
how much the fee was.
What's the percentage of the contingency?
All in on the contingency, I believe we're 500,000.
Estimated contingency.
That's 150. Bear with us one moment. So, within Bowen's estimate, so their construction estimate is $3.6 million for construction.
Okay, thank you.
That includes $150,000 construction management contingency. And on top of that, we have a $300,000 owner's contingency. So there's $450,000 within this budget that is not allocated for specific use.
Very good, thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions for Jason before he sits down? Seeing none, thank you, Jason. Is there any other comments? Seeing none, I would like to close the second public hearing on the proposed bond article for the library. have a public hearing on the proposed 2019 budget, warrant articles, and default budgets. You have a presentation, John?
Yes, I do.
Yes, that's fantastic.
Okay. Okay, the proposed 2019 budget is going to be warrant article number 5, and then there's various warrant articles, including 3 petition warrant articles that we'll get to at the end. Just a quick summary, how do we pay for government services we desire? Obviously, property tax is the one you think about. Vehicle registration is a large part. We raised close to $2 million in vehicle registration that helps to provide local services. There's fees for service. The best example would be the building inspector and the fees that are charged for people getting a building permit. And then there's some state and federal aid. That has dramatically been reduced over the years as the state has downshifted costs onto the local community. You were talking about the tax rate. Here is the history of the tax rate since 2012. And as you can see, it was 441, 466, 472, 466, 459, 421, 423. So it's been very consistent over the last 8 years as far as the municipal tax rate goes. Now, you say your tax bill went up. Well, that's the school side that we don't have control of, and that's not what we're discussing today. But as far as the municipal side of the tax rate, there's been a consistency there. When you look at measures of financial stability, the stable tax rate is one of the things you look at. The second thing we look at is fund balance. The Department of Revenue requires that you have a healthy savings account. As you know, in your personal life, you're supposed to have 6 months of revenue set aside that you can readily access. It's a similar situation for a community, and the Department of Revenue sets what is a healthy fund balance. It's a savings account to help with cash flow. It also is there in case of emergency. So measures of financial stability. What makes up the fund balance? The fund balance, you take the prior year's fund balance, you add the unexpended appropriations at the end of each year, you add revenue that came in excess of the projections you used when you set the tax rate, you add unused overlay and audit adjustments. Those last two are relatively minor. So fund balance from 2012 to 2018, while the tax rate stayed stable, we were able to increase the fund balance $1.9 million, plus we were able to spend $3,240,000 from fund balance on capital projects. Those are individual warrant articles that the town meeting has approved in order to set money aside or to buy anything from paving to heavy equipment to setting aside. The annual fund balance, when you measure it after the tax rate setting, so they're all measured at the same time of the year, you can see what the balance was as you go down this column, going from 2.5 to 4 almost 4.5. And what was used in warrant articles each year, anywhere from 250 to 726. Last year, there was a warrant article that failed to put money aside for the town hall for $750,000. There has been talk here on how we should do that. Well, we tried last year and it failed, but certainly it's something to consider as far as going forward. That would have been used from fund balance. It would not have an impact on the tax rate. The proposed operating budget approved in 2018 was $7,052,000. Proposed for 2019 is $7,096,000. That's a little bit more of an increase than it looks like. The actual difference is $43,000, which is less than a percent, 0.6%. But as mentioned earlier, there was a conservation bond that was a one-time payment, and if you take that out, the difference in the tax rate would have been, in the amount that is the budget, operating budget is $283,000. That's also the same amount that the revenue projections come in higher for 2019. So that means that the proposed operating budget as being presented here has no impact on the taxes in 2019. And that doesn't include one petition warrant article that came in late today. That article would actually add 3 cents to the tax rate, but that's a petitioned article, it's not what the selectmen were presenting. But as far as what the selectmen are presenting and asking for, there's no impact on taxes with the proposed budget and the predicted revenue. For general information, there's a 1% cost of living plus step for employees who work for the town. There's a succession management plan for myself. I'm retiring. Connor here is going to be taking my place. We're in the process of training Connor to do that. As a result, we're going to have 2 salaries for a period of months during that overlapping period. There are some large repair projects that we have. There's one $90,000 project we have to do to work on the air and air handlers at the public safety building, which is 15 years old, and you're going to start replacing some of the systems in that building. Here are the operating lines that increased over $10,000 other than personnel lines or lines that we were shifting between lines. That $85,000 air handling unit that I mentioned for air conditioning, it's getting so it's hard to get parts even for some of those units that are at the public safety unit. The succession management plan is going to add an additional $49,000 to the budget. Transfer station disposal costs. This has gone up $51,000. You say, well, we had a contract with Waste Management, and that's true for disposal of solid waste, but what's happened is the Chinese are at fault. The Chinese stopped taking recyclings, basically, and that suddenly killed the market. We were able to sell products that we separated. Now that's pretty much gone away, so there's an increase of $51,000 in disposal costs. Another line that went up was the police cruiser. Last year, we did not buy one. We were able to make several deals, and we ended up not having to buy a new cruiser, but usually you have to buy a new cruiser every year. So this is back in the budget. It had been out of the budget only for last year, but every other year, there was either 1 or 2 since I came in 2011. The highway foreman is a new position that we're requesting for the highway department. The highway department has reduced in manpower over the last several years as retirements have occurred, and this is to put back in a position there at the highway department. Finance administration. We've gone to Office 365. That's an additional $18,000. We believe that's going to save money in the long run through the phone system, but we haven't got there yet, so there's an additional cost this year. But we are in the we believe that's going to be a long-term saving, but it's also better security, better virus protection, and it is a productivity software that's used by a lot of people in the town between Office, Word, Excel, but especially Outlook. Operating budget that decreased. We had that $239,998 decrease in the bond repayment. The general assistance is down $30,000. With the economy strong, welfare demand has dropped off, so we're reducing that budget by $30,000. Paved roads, this is not paving, this is work on paved roads in other areas, is decreased by $25,000. The incident fund, which is there in case of emergencies, has been decreased by $15,000. Number of elections drives the election budget. That's down $12,000 because there are less elections next year. Regularly recurring warrant articles we'll get to, but first I wanted to pause. But let me go through all the warrant articles, and then we can do everything at the end, if that's okay.
Please.
We have a number of warrant articles that we've had every year since I've been here, as we put aside money to replace fire trucks, highway trucks, and regular equipment that we use. We try to save money in advance so we don't have to borrow or we don't have a big hit on the tax rate. I've already mentioned how much we've been able to do with fund balance in this area, and the impact on the tax depends on, in the warrant article, depends upon the use of fund balance, state aid, and grants. And traditionally, the town has been using fund balance to pay for most of these warrant articles. I've already mentioned that fund balance is the result of unexpended appropriation and revenue in excess of projections. So, Article number 6. When I arrived in 2011, Du Bois and King was doing a road study for ways to help improve the town roads looking forward. And they came up with a plan for paving. Now, that plan was for 1.2 million. We've never got up to what they said we should be spending every year. But the budget has increased, where there is 600,000 in the operating budget and 100,000 in this, so that we've been putting 700,000 a year into paving. So we've been doing better than 50% of what they recommend. And as a result, the condition of the roads in Barrington are much better than they would be had we not been investing. Roads are like any piece of equipment. They will wear out, so you need to keep working to maintain them. Number 7 is for the highway heavy equipment. We've actually been falling behind in this area. We've got several large trucks where we do a good job at maintenance, but it's time, they've outlived their projected life. The grader is 29 years old. We've increased the amount that we're setting aside for highway heavy equipment, but just be aware this number is going to go up in the future because the highway equipment is heavily used. We've been lucky in the last month as far as snowfall goes, but I'm sure it won't last. Pete's going to have his work cut out for him before the winter's over. Number 8 is library technology. Every year I've been here, they put $3,000 towards technology at the library. Everything from their card catalog system to replacing computers. They've got a good plan that they've been working. Number 9 is an older capital reserve that we haven't used for a number of years, but this year the Board of Selectmen want to use this capital reserve to repair the police station. We've looked at the needs at the police station. We know that there's going to be a significant need in the future, but we believe if we spend something in the area of $80,000 now, we can buy several years of life on the police station. There's already $30,000 in this fund, and if we put $50 in it, it meets the design that we've come up with to try to improve safety for the public, for the police, and for the clients of the police department who are sometimes in need of protection, shall we say. Number 10 is emergency communication. We think primarily fire, but it actually is all 3 of the public safety departments, including highway. Our radios are getting out of date. We're going to have to replace them. We're going to have to replace some of the connection systems that we use to be able to talk with Lee and Madbury and the UNH, where we are dispatched from. We've already put aside some money towards this, but we need to keep putting money aside. This is coming up fast, and we're going to have to replace our radios and our communication system. For the cemetery, every year we put aside what we collect in fees for people who buy lots. So as people buy lots, we take the money, and at the end of the year, by a warrant article like this, we put it in a capital reserve. So when the cemetery fills up, we've got money to expand the cemetery. We've got additional land, but it costs money to expand onto that land. So that is what that fund is for. Number 12 is for bridges and culverts. This is a great one because there's an 80% match from the state for the major culverts and bridges that we replace. Right now, we've got Malago Road has been approved. We will open bids on that. I think it's next week or the week after we open the bids on Malago. The money was in last year's budget so that we can proceed with Malago. That's a red listed bridge, meaning it's in critical condition by the state's definition. We've been doing research on Green Hill Road and design work on Green Hill for actually about 7 years. That's on the state list to be replaced. And we're putting aside money. That's an over a $2 million bridge right there on Green Hill. But as I said, 80% of that will be paid by state funding. And the one that's going to affect 8 people a lot is Old Settlers, because if it goes, their only way out is a long Class 6 road that's not maintained, in which a 4-wheeler would probably be better than an automobile. So we've got to get that one fixed eventually. It's been stable, but it's on our list of bridges and culverts that we need to repair. Fire truck, we replace on a regular schedule, 20 to 25 years. We've got $368,000 ahead. If you think that's a lot of money, that's not enough to buy a good truck. So we need to keep putting money aside on that. If we replace the tanker, which I think, Rick, is the next one, is it, the tanker? We can do that for less than that total, but then right after that, we've got one that's going to be quite a bit more than that. So we've got to keep putting money aside on fire truck replacement. And the third fire equipment capital reserve has to do with items like protective gear. Rick was able to really leverage this on a grant to replace most of our air packs. We got over $100,000 in the leverage by what we did. So we put money in here so that we're able to use it. Number 15 is a unique one. It's to discontinue 2 capital reserves that are no longer used. They were established years ago. They served their usefulness. There was money left that we spent down. Now they have 0 balances, but DRA won't let us just drop them. We have to officially discontinue them. So this is a housekeeping matter for the recycling building and for vital record preservation. The next one is a new one, which is a trust fund for the 300th celebration. The town will be celebrating its tricentennial in 2022. And this is to put a little money aside that can be used as seed money by a committee that's working on the plans. You'll probably put more aside in the coming years so that you could pay for something like fireworks or for band or for other events. But this is to start the process of preparing for the 2022 tricentennial. The next one is a petitioned article. Steve Diamond, are you here? Steve Diamond petitioned it. He could speak more to it when we get to the deliberative session. He wants to create a bike trail over a Class 6 road that goes through the Tamposi property. $30,000 is for beginning engineering and looking at it. The actual construction could be several $100,000. But he's petitioned because he would like to start work on preparing for a bike path. The next one is Keno. This was on last year. It was defeated. Passage would allow businesses in Barrington, I meant not New Hampshire, in Barrington to offer Keno. Currently, other towns have allowed Keno. That money goes into a fund. That fund is divided by all towns regardless of whether they have Keno or not, and it's used for full-day kindergarten. Passage or defeat would not change the amount we receive, but there are people who would like to be able to play Keno. There are businesses that would like to be able to offer Keno. That's why this article is on there. You'll actually hear more about this in February. There'll be a public hearing just on that one article.
John, was that petition?
No.
How do we get on there?
We put it on there.
It just came forward when I brought forward last year's, George indicated he wanted it on again for another year. So that's up to the board. You can take it off. That's on there now.
Right, but how did we get one this year?
When I upload last year's, it automatically uploads everything into the
Right,
DRA
but we
site.
have not made the decision.
You have not made
Thank
the
you.
decision.
I-
This is just a
thinking to
public hearing.
myself, Did I like miss it? this
No,
year?
no, you did not miss
Okay.
anything. No, this is, that's, the petition articles have to be on the Keno or any of the other articles, actually. It's up to the Board of Selectmen if they're going to be there or not. This is just a hearing
Okay.
on them. So make it clear, Keno has not come from the whole board.
Thank you.
Another petitioned article by that same group that was petitioning for the funds to start planning for a bicycle path is to post signage indicating where bicycle trails and paths are. There's no money associated with this, so I'm not sure who's going to pay for the signs, but that is a petitioned article. And then this is coming from a number of people in the Conservation Commission and others who are very supportive of Stonehouse Forest, and that is to change Marsh Road, which is currently a Class 6 road, and as such, you can put vehicles over it if you can get through around the ledge and over the beaver pond. But they would like to change it to a Class A trail, which would prohibit any public vehicles and only allow a certain limited group of vehicles such as snowmobiles, agricultural vehicles that are servicing the area such as logging trucks or maintenance, those kinds. So that is a petition that has come in. The last item I want to mention is the default budget. The default budget is what we end up with if the operating budget is defeated at town meeting. The default budget takes the 2018 appropriation, which was $7,052,000. It subtracts one-time expenditures like that bond payment, the 2 elections. It adds back in approved contracts like the waste management contract that was approved by voters last year, and the collective bargaining agreement that the police signed, and that's how you get the default budget of $6,817,149. So that is the operating budget and the warrant articles for a public hearing.
Dan, you have a question?
Yeah, on the road paving, we carried over like 48, 49 grand.
I actually carried 90.
90?
Yeah.
That'll be added, so we,
Yeah, what Dan is referring to is we make the road paving article non-lapsing, so it's good for more than 1 year. Most appropriations, at the end of the year, you lose it if you haven't used it. The warrant article from 2018, we did not spend all of the money. We got a good price on paving. We ended up with more left than we thought we had. And so consequently, when we did our year end, we have about 90,000 that will be for paving. So next year, if you took that 90, the 100 in the warrant article, the 600 in the budget, you actually have almost 800,000 that can be spent on paving.
thank you. On the, I thought we, no additional impact. I thought we changed the word from last year. No additional impact on the,
I don't remember, but yeah, we can talk about that wording later. It's not part of the hearing here.
right, and then for the Marsh Road, 20 petitioners, it's gonna be 25 people, right?
There's more than 20.
It's Article 20.
Oh,
It's Article 20. You're right, it did need to be 25.
I read it wrong, thank you.
Sorry. Those are the numbers. And this is all on the assumption that tomorrow night the planning board puts one article on for zoning. That there is tomorrow night, Masha, right, that you're having the public hearing?
Yes.
Yes, there's a public hearing tomorrow on the one zoning article. And in fact, if I could, maybe Masha could give a summary of what that is for someone where we're doing everything on the warrant. If it's all right, would you do it?
Board have any objection? Seeing none, please.
Thank you. Again, Marcia Gassis, the town planner. Yes, the board is recommending one zoning amendment. It is to allow for conservation subdivisions in the regional commercial zoning district, provided there is no structure within 500 feet of the center line of Route 125. This is consistent with what is currently allowed for residential in regional commercial. You can, under the general residential zoning requirements, build homes in the regional commercial district, provided they're 500 feet back. This would just allow for conservation subdivisions. The Zoning Board of Adjustment recommended we fix this, since they've had granted 2 variances in the last probably 3 years, allowing for conservation subdivisions. The first example would be the new homes that are located on Toland Road. If you go down there, they actually granted 2 variances as part of that, but they are considered a conservation subdivision. The lots are smaller, but there was a lot of acreage devoted to conservation behind those. The zoning board recently granted a variance to Mr. Falzoni. We spoke about the 220 acres in the lot for the town off Route 125. He is going to cluster probably approximately 55 homes behind the commercial lots, instead of building a considerable amount of roadway and infrastructure that the town would then possibly be responsible for. Those lots are going to be a little bit smaller, but there will be a lot of conservation land set aside as part of that. There is never any increased density as part of that. He'll get the same amount of homes. There'll just be less infrastructure involved.
Is Is there any questions for Marcia, please? Thank you, Marcia. Oh, Dan?
Yeah, our conservation is like 50% is almost 50% reserved.
Pretty much, I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but there's a considerable amount. People might be aware of the Village Place subdivision, which Mr. Falzoni did. That was approved prior to the planning board and taking to the voters the removal of the bonus. So he got a few extra lots. We figure the incentive of less roadway, less infrastructure is enough that currently they get the same amount of houses. So if under a conventional 80,000 square foot minimum lot size, you get 55 houses, that's exactly what you get with a conservation subdivision now. So it doesn't mean any more houses, it just means it's a little bit different configuration.
Have any more questions for Marcia? Marcia, thank you very much. Is there any questions on Mr. Scruton's presentation? Steve?
Yes, Steve Saunders. I noticed that there will be as a public, non-public session later on personnel potentially and so on. And I recognize as part of the budget process, there were discussions for some staff changes that had been requested by some of the directors. And that is not reflected in the budget today. We've been told that in one department, if those positions are approved, that there's adequate funding because it just changes the funding from one line item to another. However, we also know that there are some potential inequities that would be created across departments if that is approved. And if that is approved, I would want to see a committee established to do a total job assessment between the two departments that are affected and potential others. And I would like to see if it looks like that is something that might occur during this 2019 budget cycle, that a contingency be increased to accommodate any potential adjustments to other salaries in those other departments for positions that would be affected by that. So I would help the board would consider adding more contingency funds for that contingency.
Does any board members have any comments? Thank you, Steve, for your comments.
Yeah, what I would anticipate, just to, by way of Steve's comments, there is a non-public later. I would anticipate that this public hearing is going to be recessed at the end of the time period. We will then have some ordinary business. We'll then do the non-public. We'll then come back, and then we will consider making votes and resuming the public hearing at that point. So if we go into non-public, we'll go into the room. You can stay in here. But that's the, I think you've made some very good points. Thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it. Any further comments on Mr. Scruton's presentation? Please.
Just to clarify.
Please come to the microphone. I know, I appreciate it, Dale.
No problem, thank you. Just to clarify, you are saying that after the non-public, there will be an opportunity to discuss this or not? Is it something?
Yes, there will.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Some items that we haven't finished because of the lateness.
Thank you.
We're going to do that.
However, we would like to deal with everything except those 2 or 3 items that might change as a result of the non-public at this point.
We understand, thank you.
Seeing as how there isn't any more questions, I want to bring up the operator. Please come forward.
Melissa Cragen. I was wondering what the anticipated surplus is from the year we're just finishing. Do you have an amount?
Yes, we anticipate about $500,000 in surplus in addition to the amount that's currently available, so that there's a little over $1 million available.
And I guess listening to the highway conversation, I'm kind of surprised. Why are we looking to just use surplus money? I presumably, moving forward, take surplus money every year to put it to the highway instead of just creating a highway budget that's adequate for what our needs are. And I understand the study that came out that was the 1.2 million maybe beyond our budget at this point, but maybe every year add a little bit more to it instead of just hoping to rely on surplus for something so important.
I don't disagree with what you're suggesting.
So that would be
It's
my
a political
recommendation.
Tracy?
I would disagree that it's just a political matter. There's a lot of fluctuation when we send out to bid. And that pricing is variable each year based on raw materials. And so I personally hear what you're saying, but I don't think it's kind of like throwing a dart sometimes based on what the bids come back at. Is that a good way to describe it?
Okay.
That's good.
And just another question, I know on the school side of things, the default budget, the rules changed a bit this year on how you come up with the default budget. Did that impact you guys as well?
Yes, there were less items in this year's default budget than we traditionally had. So the default actually, under the old rules, it would have increased more than what it is right now. In other words, it's lower now because of the new rules.
And the last question I had, sorry, on budget line 3503, miscellaneous revenue.
Excuse me, we're going to open up that section. I'll let you have the last one, I'm just asking you, please go on with our timetable.
We're not talking about the budget right now?
I'm going to open it up as soon as we get through with Mr. Scruton's comments.
Oh, no, I think she has a valid question on the budget. I assume you're asking on revenue line 350, what number was it? 3503? That's the money from, most of that is the money from the library. We have to make everything balanced.
Gotcha. Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Sorry for that, thank you.
That's perfect.
Is there any other comments on what Mr. Scruton covered? Seeing none, we will open up the proposed 2019 budget. Is there any questions on that?
Is this the portion where a select person would make a recommendation to change specific items?
It is.
Okay. So I was hoping to make a recommendation, since we have not settled the issue, that we move the 35,000 potential road agent dollars over to the incidental account, so that should it not be expended on a position that has not been approved yet, that it is available to be used for other purposes.
I have a motion to move.
I'll second it.
I have a motion to remove the 35,000. I have a second from Dan. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none from the board, I move to take a vote. I will vote. Bailey, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Air aye.
Okay, gentlemen.
So to clarify, we're reducing the hourly salary line in highway by $35,000 and increasing the executive incident fund by $35,000.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
And then should the position be approved, it allows for...
You can go back.
Yeah.
See how easy that was, Dale?
Sir?
No, thank you. Is there any other further discussion?
Chairperson Bailey?
Please, go ahead.
This is new to me, folks, so bear with me all. How do we go about making motions in reference to the town hall and the budget to build and potentially using some of the reserve funds?
You could make it right now.
Yep. Do it right now for the...
Do we have the funds available to fund half of that build with what we have sitting in reserve?
Yes.
Based on how we're ending this year?
The target would end up just a little below the mid-range, but not, it would be very close to what the target is for the mid-range of fund balance.
And if we did that, based on the current Federal Reserve rates for bonds,
Yes.
would the impact be zero to our taxpayers on this town hall bill if we take away what we're spending in rent, we begin to tax the property that we've been renting, and we use some of those reserves? So would we in fact be able to do this and have a zero impact to the residents?
It'd be less than a cent, if not zero. It would be
Okay.
very close to, I mean, we'd have to, we could calculate it, but it would be very close to zero.
And then we could clear the way for the decision-making for a library and community center.
Right, you'd have a bond for 950,000, and you would have a fund balance for 950,000 or something like that.
Well, I will tell you, as a new select person in this town, I have no idea how to word that, but I would like to word that. So that is my motion.
It is to reduce the bond article from 1.9 million to 9,050,000, and to increase, and to create a new warrant article for 950,000.
9 million.
You're doing what I do. 950,000. I'm like,
I should have put
I don't
coffee
think I
against
meant that,
wall
I'm
on
sorry.
his face. Yeah, 950,000 for the
Thank you.
bond article, 950,000 for a additional warrant article that's not there right now.
Thank you, sir.
And that would basically be zero.
I'm going for zero. I want to clear the path for this one.
That gets us a little bit less than a penny. Thank you. I will second that motion.
I'd like to comment on it.
And now, is there any comment from the board? Dan, you have a comment?
Yes, this is going off the library. We're not working against you. If we can level fund this, keep it low impact, there'll be no additional tax on the town hall. It gives us future growth for a police station in the future. It's a good investment. And we're not doing it out of spite or anything. We're looking for the future of the town and save money.
If I may, some of the audience may be wondering how it has no impact on the taxes. And that is because we're paying $64,000 in rent, and the bond payment would be $64,000, so that the two of them wash, so that there's no net impact on taxes for the 950,000 bond. And the warrant article has no impact on taxes because the money is not being raised by taxes at this point. It's like all the other articles that we fund. I will want to recalculate and see if the board may want to change the funding source of some other warrant article to make sure we hit we don't go too far below the midpoint. But I can put all this together, I can rerun those numbers, and I'll do the projection. It's hard to project today the exact number on fund balance because we have 2 more weeks of expenditures of 2018 bills that are still coming in. We're in good shape at this point to add to what we have, so it looks like we'll be all right, but I can give you a better number then.
I think it's important to note as well that the property that we're currently renting then also becomes taxable, which I assume, given it's a commercial property, gives us some type of incoming revenue.
Oh, yeah, it's around 14,000.
So I'm going for a win-win on this and then getting that library in front of people. Okay.
Dan?
So, although we have 2 bonds, one's gonna have an impact and stuff. So we're not working against this stuff, so we can get all these dilemmas taken care of. And this is the time to do it. It's gonna save us money in the long run.
And I truly hope that the residents of this town watch this meeting. Please encourage people to.
Any further comment?
And those 2 articles would not be dependent upon each other. You may end up with one or the other of them failing, but then you're still halfway to the town hall.
I understand.
Before I close the bond hearing...
Chairperson, do you want to vote?
We gotta vote.
You got to vote on this and then...
Okay.
Air aye.
I said Bailey aye. We already did.
I seconded, then I commented.
I think
Then I turned around and took a vote. Asked for any more comment?
I think we were solidifying the language.
No, we need to record the vote. We didn't
Yeah.
get it.
All right, so we have a motion before us to turn around and to
Split that bond.
to split the bond and leave the bond at $950,000 and take $800,000, put it in. So as was stated before, so we're changing warrant article number 3. So is there any further comment? Seeing none, take a vote. Bailey, aye. Hatch, aye.
Hardikoff, aye.
Air aye.
Air, aye. Okay. Motion carries 4-0. And please let it be noted that Mr. Knapp has been excused for tonight. I should have said that earlier, but Mr. Knapp has been excused due to illness. Steve, you have a comment? Please.
I'm very pleased with that new set of warrant article proposals. So as you prepare your pro formas, which I think needs to be part of the educational material, I think you may see that there may be a bubble in 1 year, probably 2020, where there's an overlap where you're paying rent and you haven't moved into the new building, and that needs to be part of that pro forma. I think people would accept that because it will go away.
Sure. Thank you for your comments. Before I close the hearing on the proposed 2019 budget, I just have one item on page 1, and we're asking your help to have a lot of these items taken care of. Not only am I asking for the board, I'm asking for the library. It's something that we need to consider when we go through all of these items that we just covered in a public hearing. It's just, it's at a point we're growing, and pretty soon we're going to be stumbling over each other either in the library or in the town hall. What I would like to do is that the first session for the annual deliberative session, the time and date is February 2nd, 2019 at 9 a.m. at the Barrington Middle School. And I would appreciate if you would talk to your friends and relatives and co-workers that live in Barrington to please participate so that we can get the word out, so that we can get these 2 needed items taken care of. And the other part to remind you is that the second session, which is the voting day, is on March 12th between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. at the middle school. That's what I have there. Is there any other comments or things the boards would like to present for the presentation of the budget?
If I may make clear in the handout, there were 2 alternate versions of the library bond. The first one, which is numbered Article 4, is the one that will go forward. The second one was contingent upon whether or not the money was secure, and I've been told today that it is. So there's that page is, you can throw away.
Chairperson?
Please.
So one quick statement in reference to our library folks. Getting the word out that our school bond is expiring, getting the word out that having a great library and community center just adds value to our homes going forward, to be honest. And being certain that as we continue to experience growth here in the Seacoast area, we are the one area of the state of New Hampshire that's having an influx of younger people. We're not necessarily aging, and we are the last group where real estate has continued to stay active while the rest of the state has slowed down. So there are many, many reasons for the residents of Barrington to consider the library and community build, and I hope when it comes before the voters that there is strong support.
And to go along with that, I think that if you talk to anybody that you know is in the real estate business, and I for one can tell you that I have, every month I get at least one request for them to sell my house and for me to move because I'm too old to live here, I guess the way they look at it. But that's not the question, it's just saying to support the younger people moving in, and that's what's happening. Because we do have a good school system, and we do have a good town, we have a good public works department, we have a police department that's excellent, and we have an excellent fire department with the ambulance service that comes with it. I mean, we're very fortunate for the people we have that our tax money pays to have here. It's my last comment on this part of the budget. I will close that portion of the proposed 2019 budget. The warrant article on the acceptance of a grant amount of $10,000 for land of the Conservation Haley, Rubenstein, and Hanish properties.
I would like this public hearing to be expanded to include $190,000 from the state's Drinking Water and Groundwater Trust Fund, $10,000 from the City of Portsmouth, $20,000 from the state's Conservation Committee, the Moose Plate, $10,000 from Field Pond Foundation, and $10,000 from the Backlund Foundation. Conservation has done an excellent job coming up with $240,000 to help with this project. The board had authorized them to go out and get grants. I'd like to have all 240,000 authorized for acceptance.
Any discussion from the board? Dan?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion.
I'd second.
I have a second. We have any further discussion on this? So we're going to move that the public hearing will go from the original $10,000 to $240,000 as pre-listed by John. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0.
So that was authorizing the Conservation Commission to accept those funds.
Yep, correct. We're at a public meeting. Any other comments from the public? Any more comments from the board? Seeing none, we approve the $240,000 public hearing for the grant on conservation. Haley, Rubenstein, and Banish is closed. Thank you. Now we have the open. Now we're going to regular business appointments. Does anybody in the board need a break? Yes. We're going to have a 5-minute recess.
We'll just safeguard that money in a different line item, that if we don't have that position, we spend it on that.
But there's another one for 7
I'd like to have
I'm going to check this.
Work with him and have him help her for you. My husband.
Yes.
maybe totally different from summer, maybe totally different. Who knows? And then even this summer, like reading. It was awesome. Yes, exactly.